Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Enlightened Entrepreneur. This program is sponsored by World Outsourcing, the company that specializes in providing virtual employees to business owners around the world. You can visit the site www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com for more information. And my name is Yokai. Today I'm delighted to be talking to Matthew Morgan, a gentleman all the way from Australia, Melbourne, who is doing extremely well when it comes to bringing up ideas to the market. We've entitled this interview, How to Get Started with Your Business, an interview with Matthew Morgan. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, great to be here.
Incredible. Really appreciate you taking your time to talk to our audience today about a subject which is, I know, is at the top of everyone's mind right now, which is how do I get my business off the ground or take an idea I have and bring it to where people are. And you've done that several times, and it's good to have you with us.
Great. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you.
Incredible. Now, before we get started, one of the things I know our audience would love to know is how did you get started as a business person?
My background, I started as a writer, like journalist, working in corporate communications, advertising, marketing, those kind of things about 16, 17 years ago. And through that, I really learned the process of finding and understanding the audience that you're trying to talk to, and also taking usually fairly complicated things and making them as simple to understand as possible. And if you look at any good business, look at any good brand and the way in which they perform, they generally will take complex things and make them simple. A really good example of that, an obvious one, would be Apple. They're taking fairly complicated pieces of technology and they just make it really simple for me to understand what it is. They make it really simple for me to like them as a brand. And that really is, that's kind of where I started. And about coming on 4 years ago now, having done a lot of work for other companies and brands to help them sell their products, I thought it was probably about time that I went and made some of my own products, my own things, and took time to get the ideas out there and start communicating them to build an audience and build a profitable business.
Incredible. I love how you transition from helping other business promote their programs. For example, you're originally from here in England, and you now live in Melbourne. You went there from our previous conversation in an effort to help another company, but then when that was over, you went on to launch your own company. Now, what I really like about that is you did not step out into the dark, so to speak, without any knowledge of how it's done.
Yeah, so look, for me, Twitter is a really important platform. I've always loved it. I've been on it for a long time. Twitter's really big on current affairs and news and things that are happening right now. And again, to the last point we were just talking about, the fact it's only got 140 characters means you've got to get really good at saying complicated things really simply. But what enabled me to jump from a corporate life into entrepreneurship was I was able to put some of my ideas out through Twitter to my audience. So I don't have a huge following, about 1,500, something like that. But there are enough people in there who, when asked a question, will give you a good answer. And so I had probably 10 different ideas of things that I thought were really good. And again, in your own mind, they can seem like the best idea ever. But what every good idea needs is lots of different points of view.
That's right.
And so for me, Twitter's just a good place to go, hey, I've got this idea on, one idea was for a political blog. I mean, I've done quite a lot of writing before. I'm interested politically, thought that would be a good passion. And, I put it out there and said, this is what I think I'm going to do. And it was fascinating. Like the people I thought were going to come back to me and say, that's a great idea, Matt. You should totally do that. Came back to me and went, Matt, you're an idiot. There's no money in that idea. You got to think more. You got to think more broadly. You got to think of different ways to monetize and things that I just simply hadn't thought through in my mind. Those points of view were given to me very, very quickly. Now, look, Twitter is just a channel because it's simple, and I've spent a lot of time on it. But all of these social platforms are now available, but that weren't available 10 years ago, certainly. That are really powerful. Obvious ones are Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, but there are lots of others that you would have heard of that are particularly good as well. Kickstarter, Indiegogo. They're platforms for ideas, but they're also just communities of people who are fascinated by new ideas that you can ask questions of. And the great thing about most people who are interested in entrepreneurship, technology, new ideas, is that they will passionately give you their opinion.
Beautiful.
And you can use that to understand what a good idea is and what a good idea isn't, and just get a broader point of view to the ideas that you have.
Incredible. What I'm hearing from that, and I'll translate it as well to our audience, if you are starting up and you've got an idea you want to bring to the market, like what Matt did here, is consult with the people, be it on Twitter, on Facebook, or on all those things, to see what others think before you jump off and say, I'm going to do that. And of course, a good result of what Matt did during those early stage of researching is Matt came up with a brilliant idea. Let's talk about the idea you came up with.
Yeah, so happily, because it's my great idea.
Yes.
So the idea is
actually before you mention a great idea, one of the reasons why we decided to talk to you today is just about last year you were in Dublin, and you were honored to be among the 100 fastest growing small business company right here in Dublin. And that's worth noting if you're a business owner and you're starting out. So do go ahead.
Thank you very much. Actually, it's a good way to start the explaining what the idea is, because the original idea was simply to capture text messages and print them out. Right. I'll explain how we got to the idea. But when we first put that idea out on Twitter and said we're thinking about doing a printing service to record all your text messages,
yes.
We got a lot of people come back and go, why stop there? Why not do photos on Facebook and Instagram, and bring a much broader collection of things? So if it hadn't have been for the feedback from others, we would never have won the top 100 startups to watch at Web Summit. The idea is it's called Bound, BOWND. It's a play on the idea of binding things together. And really the idea came a few years ago now. Sadly, my grandmother passed away, and she left me a whole bunch of letters, a box full of them actually.
Right.
I've got some here. I'll show you on the camera.
Yes.
Now these are letters that this is just one of many stacks of them. And these are letters that she and my grandfather sent to one another during the Second World War. They were apart for almost the entire war, and there were hundreds of letters to one another. And what just blew me away, other than the emotional family connection, was that 75 years later, I'm able to look at and understand the relationship that the two of them had, because it's in this documented, beautifully handwritten letter.
Yes.
And that got me thinking about my own life with my wife. And she and I, of course, like everybody else, we just talk on the mobile phone.
That's right. You record everything on it. That's right.
And so when I get rid of this, or I upgrade and get the new one, or I lose it, or whatever, a lot of that content, or a lot of that conversation between the two of us is lost.
Correct.
And so the idea was simply to capture all of the conversations that go on between a couple through their mobile devices, and bring it together into a photo album, a printed photo book that can be a memento or kept for posterity, for time to come, for generations in the future to look back. So my kids can look at conversations my wife and I had this year in 20 years' time. And of course, from a business point of view, the photo book market, the printed photo book market, is in growth. It's about a $15 billion a year industry in Western Europe and North America alone. It grows somewhere in the region of about 10 to 12% year on year. Has done for the last 5 or 6 years. So it's a big market. If you think of Photobox or Snapfish or Vistaprint, a number of those online digital printing services, they're big companies. They are pushing through a lot of products and a lot of revenue. And so our belief was we've got a good idea, and we can move into an industry that is in growth, well established, and ripe for a bit of disruption.
Incredible. I love the idea. It makes perfect sense. You talk to anyone out there, they will say, "Oh, I would love to have our relationship, our communication captured, and the thought of our grandchildren, reading about how we loved each other, how we do." It's a brilliant idea, and no wonder why. Of course, when you were in Dublin, you were among those people who were doing well in the startup community. What I am interested to know more, and I'm sure our audience at this point, is what had to happen from the moment you saw the idea. In fact, I know you did the consultation, with others, because you refined the idea to a place where it was usable. People can understand the concept. What had to happen from that point to the point where it is now in the market for people to say, actually, I'm going to be buying this. I need it in my own life?
Yes, it's a great question. And honestly, 5 years ago, I asked questions like that myself, and it's hard to find an answer. The reality is, I've built with my company, MadeMyAccount.com, we've built 4 or 5 web mobile applications now. And the process of doing that over and over again has got me and my small team really good at making things quickly, and cheaply is the wrong word, because we always make them to an exacting and a good standard, but we're very efficient at doing it. So we don't waste a lot of time in the actual build phase of the technology, because that can be very time consuming and it can be very expensive. But really what after we got the idea and we worked out what it was going to be, we spent about 2 weeks really mapping out exactly what we wanted the mobile phone app to do. And we used a really amazing program. It's free, called Envision, INVISION, which is a mobile application prototype builder. It's Envision.com. It's an amazingly good platform. And once we had a prototype, we were then able to re-engage that audience that I talked about before and get a whole bunch of people using it. And we got a whole load of feedback, about 100 or so people we got feedback from. And that allowed us to work out exactly what we were going to build. And what that meant was the actual build phase really only took us a couple of weeks. And the difference when you're a startup between 2 weeks of development and 2 months of development is the difference between paying your mortgage for 3 months or a year. It's huge. And so we've just become very efficient at developing things quickly. And then the other sort of piece I've always say to, when I'm talking about these sorts of things is, it's important to have a big goal. You're right, you want to shoot for the stars always, but it's also important to have an achievable short goal, something you can achieve quickly. And so we just set a target. We said we're going to sell 100 books, and then we're going to go and make them. That's all we're going to worry about. We're not going to worry about becoming an overnight, multi-billion-dollar.com or anything like that. All we want to do is make 100 sales and then get some money from that. Not a huge amount, a few $100, nothing huge. But just prove that the concept works. And once we've done that, then let's do 250 sales. Then let's do 500. And hopefully...
If you're just maybe coming back after just a little disruption we had there, Matt had been covering some steps that he went through when he was launching his app to the market, and I'll just recap that because I was taking notes, which I expect you as a business owner to take notes when you're doing this thing. Number one, Matt had an idea, consulted with the group on social media, and refined that idea to the point where it was understandable, that he could share that in simple terms and everyday person will be able to understand what Matt is trying to do and bring it to the market. And then he consulted with, went on to put this idea, which had been refined, to a small team of people that he's been working with over a period of time, over the last 5 years, and then move on to really quickly to make things happen. In fact, one of the things that Matt said here is, in technology, you have to move in really, really quickly. And after building the prototype using InVision, and mapping out the structure of what the app was going to look like, he then re-engaged the audience, or the people that he had consulted with in the beginning, just to make sure that it is still usable. And again, if you are starting or you're bringing your app or whatever it is, you really need the involvement of other people. And then after that, Matt was talking about, have a goal and have that goal being achievable. Does that sum up where we had covered so far, Matt?
Yeah, I think it's really good. As I was saying, our initial plan, our short-term goal was to sell 100 books.
Right.
And we did that right in time. We said we'd do it over 4 weeks, and we sold 100 books in 4 weeks. Now, 100 books in 4 weeks is not a massive win. It's certainly not. I'm not going to go out and buy a yacht on the back of 100 books, which I'm making somewhere in the region of about £7 or £8 per book. But what it does is it proved out the business model works. And from that, we then moved to selling 250 books. Right. And that's right where we are. We just finished delivering those 250 books. And our new goal now is 500 books. And really, each time we're asking for feedback from everybody we're interacting with. So the first 100 books, the first 100 people who got their books, their printed photo books, we put in a discount voucher for another order. and we asked them some questions around the experience they'd had and what they thought of the book and everything else. And again, just an anecdote. A really interesting learning for us was we spent quite a lot of money on the finish of the outside of the book. And we were really proud of it. But almost everybody said to us, yeah, it's a bit fussy. It just needs to be plain. The really fun stuff's inside, the personal stuff's inside the book. The outside doesn't need to be that fancy.
Right.
And that's good because, now that we've learned that, we've taken that out. We're not doing the outer anymore, and that's reduced the price of the book. And you know what? You reduce the price of something, you get more people who are willing to buy. Who will be willing to buy.
And again,
so these are the sorts of things that we just keep doing. We just keep asking questions of everybody, and then taking what the majority of people say or the themes that come out of the responses, and putting that back into the business plan. To move ourselves forward to the next goal.
Absolutely. What I really love about that approach is you are not going to spend a lot of money on producing a lot of books that no one is going to buy, and it's you are taking calculated risk in what you're doing.
Yeah, I met a guy a few years ago. He was a venture capitalist in New York. He's a real big shot. He was amazing. He was an amazing bloke. And he was he was much more gung-ho. He was like, don't, just take massive risks. Run forward, do everything all at the same time. It'll all work out. And I really struggled conceptually to get that in my mind. Not that I'm risk averse. I'm not. I always want to take risks. But I like the idea of moving forward in an ordered manner.
Correct.
And I really think, there are very, very few people in this world who can just go in guns a-blazing, right? Richard Branson, Elon Musk, they're probably, one or two others. Most people are not like that. I'm definitely not like that. And I think it's important that we don't take those individuals, those highly rare individuals, as a model for what we should be doing. And I think a much more considered approach is important. And then you've got to add to that, or make sure that you're running really quickly. Because you don't want to go too slowly. If you go too slow, you'll get eaten up. You'll run out of money. That's just simple economics. So you've got to move quickly, but doing it in an ordered manner is the most important thing.
Absolutely. And it's a proven strategy. Many business owners do that. I tell you, I don't like losing money. I like making it, but losing money is not one of those things that are there. So that forces me to make a calculated risk that if I do this, if I lose, how much am I losing out of this? Or if I am going to win, how much am I going to win on this? So you just have to, if you're a business owner, have to look at those things and do the thing that makes sense. And again, what Matt is talking about here is get feedback from the people that are likely to use your services or your products. Hear what they are saying. Take that into consideration, because they are the people that are going to use it. They know what they want, and as long as you give them what they want, they will keep coming back to you.
Yeah, and I think also in today's world, people like to be involved.
Absolutely.
It's just like Amazon's user feedback and TripAdvisor's travelers' feedback. We kind of, as consumers, that's kind of how we behave. We like to tell people, I don't like your product, or I do like your product, and I really like this, and so why should that only apply to big, well-established brands? It totally applies to new ideas and startups and innovation. And I think we're all better when we totally embrace that.
Absolutely. In fact, here's what many people would do, and I do this, is people are being trained that way. So it's in their system to give feedback, to respond. If you as a business owner capitalize on that, work the system, get them to give you feedback, they will give you brilliant feedback that will transform your business. for the better, and you end up with a great product you are proud of, that you have raving fans for, for life, and maybe for 3 generations, after you've gone. Let me take you back, Matt, to those early days of really launching the product. You've talked to us about the process you went through in establishing this business and getting your wonderful idea out there, and you going to Dublin and do all those wonderful things you do. The next question is, what some roadblocks did you have to overcome in the process? Because we all know that it wasn't plain sailing.
Yes, it certainly wasn't plain sailing. So number one is cash flow.
Right.
It's you hear it from lots of people. It is just a reality. There are things in your life, whoever you are, that need to be paid for. Roofs overhead, food, all of the basics, and probably a few more things too. You've got to keep a really careful handle on that stuff. You've got to have a good plan, and that plan's got to run for a long period of time to allow you to focus on building the business. And a roadblock for me, absolutely, is cash flow. There are definitely were periods of time, and frankly, there still are periods of time where I can see I'm going to have a month that's going to be really hard. Perhaps when we do a big round of development, that's expense out the door. It's also time where I'm unable to earn money elsewhere. I have to be careful of that stuff, as everyone does. So a roadblock of reality is the 2 weeks before going to Dublin. I had to take a piece of contract work, which was about 10 days long, to ensure that I had enough money to keep everybody afloat. While we were in Dublin. In an ideal world, I would have been at home preparing for this trip that we were doing and this showcase of the idea that we had, but I had to physically go out and go and earn some cash. That is a reality of the world that we all live in. Actually, though, for me, there's a positive thing there, because sometimes when you're developing an idea, you get lost in the forest and you can't see the wood for the trees, as somebody once said.
Right.
And actually, physically having to remove yourself to go and do something else to pay some bills, it's quite a good process, because you kind of put it down for a minute and you don't worry about it and you're thinking about something else. And when you come back to it, you come back to it with a fresh set of eyes. So cash flow, definitely one big roadblock. Another big roadblock for us is, and I've had this experience on another business significantly, is Facebook. So we're building stuff that is drawing data out of Facebook, and Facebook changed their rules on how you can do, as a third party, you can do that all the time. And keeping up with them is really hard, because they don't really tell you what they're doing, they just do it. The same can be said for Apple's App Store as well. There are some very, very deep and difficult rules to understand. And so sometimes you build something you think will work and it just doesn't, and you end up losing a week trying to work out why it doesn't work. I think that's just part of the game. That's part of what we're doing. It's understanding how to use technology in a new way. That's the risk. But it's definitely one of the hardest things. And when you couple that sort of thing against cash flow, it can get very difficult. But I would say it's 100% worth it. It always is, and there's always more upside than down.
Absolutely. I really honor you for being so honest, sharing with our audience those two critical things. Cash flow for any business owner who is getting started, launching your idea and all that, is always a challenge, because you're suffering from credibility. No one knows you. and you don't have any client who has tested you, who will give you testimony as to how this works. So that's a real challenge, but it's just the nature of the game. I loved how you.
Sorry, I was going to say there's a wonderful, anyone should look it up. There's a wonderful interview with Bill Gates, right? He's the richest man in the world. I think it was with Forbes magazine. If you look on Forbes, it might have been Bloomberg a couple of years ago.
Right.
And he says, basically, he has a cash flow crisis every 2 or 3 years. He said, don't worry about the fact that I'm the richest man in the world. I'm doing bigger deals, but it's the same problem. I'm looking at 20 things I want to do, but I can only afford to do 6 of them. So I'm constantly worried about cash flow. And I just thought that was really nice because, I'm where I am and other people are where they are, trying to build things and worrying about cash flow. The reality is everyone does. It doesn't matter who you are. So It's something we've got to embrace and get used to, I guess is the point.
Absolutely. At any stage of business, you are absolutely. Just to add on that, Matt, which you explained really well, is you had to come up with a strategy to get cash to help you temporarily to move you to where you are. The message there is for you as a business owner is don't sit there when you come against a roadblock of cash and hope that things are gonna fall on your lap and everything's gonna work. You actually do whatever it takes to get you to your goal. Because the moment you stop doing that, you are the loser. You are the one who's going to give up on your dreams. But there is no need for you to give up. If you become resourceful and use what you have, your knowledge, your skill, your expertise, your team, and all that you've been learning during these programs to go out and get the cash. Don't be too proud to go actually and work for someone else for temporarily to generate that money that you need, and it will actually pay off in the long run. You also touched on Facebook, which is an external force. Oftentimes, I don't know about you, Matt, is in business you are dealing with internal force, what is happening with you, cash flow, and all that. That's one side of the business. But you also have the external side, the changes of law, the changes of environment, the changes of market. And you as a business owner, you have to have the stamina to withstand that rigor, all that, and still have the right mindset that this is temporarily, it is going to go and keep on going until you get there. You will get there. Matt, because of our time, let's talk for a moment how your product actually works, because I know some people have enjoyed the idea. Can we explore, in a little bit more depth here as to how they use your app and the advantages of using your app?
Yeah, sure. Very simply, we're recording the interaction between two people through their mobile devices. For this example, I'll talk about myself and my wife. So every message, every photo that we take of one another, everything we post to Instagram or Facebook, it's about capturing all of that information and distilling it down into a beautiful photo album that one or other of us can give to the other so that we can record our life together. So how it works, very simply, is inside the app, I select my wife's phone number, her email address. In Facebook and Instagram, I select her as my partner. And then the app just simply records all of the interactions that go on between the two of us. We've then got some fairly simple algorithms, although we think they're fairly unique, that work out exactly what's important and what isn't. Because otherwise, if you record everything that goes on between a married couple, there'd be a lot of "where are you?" Pick up some milk.
Yes.
The kids are sick again, all that kind of stuff. And we don't want to record that,
no.
As important as it might be. And so for the images, it looks at the number of likes and or comments that the images get on Facebook and Instagram. And the more likes and more comments they get, the more likely they are to end up in the book. In simple terms, that's just making sure that the most liked images are in the books, and the ones that don't mean anything to anyone aren't in the books. For the text messages and emails that go between, we've got some keyword searches, positive and negative, that take out messages that say, honey, pick me up a pint of milk, but keep the ones that say, I love you, darling, you are my life, or those kind of things. And we're using somewhere in the region of about 40 to 50 keywords positive and 40 or 50 keywords negative. And that seems to give us, for the average book, somewhere in the region of 60 images and somewhere in the region of 20 to 30 text messages and 3 or 4 emails that really bring together a beautiful book, but one that is contextualized, one that has those interactions married up with the images that happened around the same time.
Incredible.
And then at the back end, I'm not ashamed to say or talk about it. We partner using an affiliate API, the global Hewlett-Packard Snapfish printing system. So for our business, we haven't had to worry about printing logistics or printing presses or any of that kind of stuff, which is very timely and very expensive. We're just using a very, very good service with Hewlett-Packard. And that means we've been able to really focus on the front-end product rather than the back-end solution. Although we had to build the app, of course, that's a back-end solution, but the actual printing of the books we've left to the professionals. And so far that seems to be working really, really well for us. And it just means that the quality of the product that goes to the customer in the end is very good. And it also means, because it's a global printing system, if my wife and I put together this book, but we want to send it to my mother in London, that's dead easy too. It's just printed in London and sent to her there. So there are some real benefits to using them as a solution.
Incredible. Well, Matt, this is wonderful. I know our audience would love to connect with you at some level. Where can they easily find you?
Okay, so as I've already talked, Twitter is where I'm biggest. So at Format, so FORMATT, on Twitter is where to go. Alternatively, find us at the company website, which is makemincount.com, all one word, makemincount.com, and see all the things we do there, including Bound, including a couple of other things. And I'm always happy to talk to anyone about anything, but if you want a quicker response, Twitter is usually the best way to go. I'm on it 24 hours a day.
Incredible. Matt, I would like to thank you for taking time to really talk to us about, developing an app or bringing an idea to the market, and also talking to us about your product in general. A great lesson there for us to learn from what you've just shared with us. One final question. If you were to do it all over again, bringing an idea to the market, hitting it really hard, what would you do differently, knowing what you know today?
That's a great question. I definitely, if you were asking me this before I did Bound, on my other, based off the first business I built, which we haven't really talked about, I would say ask everyone, gather feedback, iterate, learn as you go. I think we've really embraced that, and we're seeing positivity out of that, which is good. What would I do different this time? I think I'd probably work a little harder to build a bigger group. There are 3 of us, and I think we're missing a couple of people. Not that I want to build a massive empire or anything like that. I think the problem with 2 or 3 people is you can all convince yourselves it's a really good idea, but what you actually need is somebody who says, guys, you're wrong. We need to do it differently, or we need to think about it differently. And I think you'd achieve that in a group of five. And I know the Founders Institute in California. I spend a little bit of time with them. That they have a golden rule, which is never talk to a startup. That's less than 4 people. I think it's 4 people. And I think that's an interesting insight. So what would I do differently? I'd probably spend a bit more time finding a couple of other partners, other people to come in. Maybe not full time, maybe just as advisors or something. And I'll probably, now, having thought about it, I'll probably go and do that tomorrow.
Well, Matt, you've been outstanding in the way you have been sharing generously your knowledge, your experience in running a business. We would like to wish you great success in all your future endeavors, and particularly with the app that you developed. I see a lot of value in it, and I think our audience see a great value in it. With that said, we wish you a great, I think it's an evening there over in Australia now.
It's evening here, and of course I wish the very best of luck to you, and of course to all your audience as well. And just hit me up on Twitter if I can help anybody.
Incredible. For you audience, great actionable stuff there that Matt has been sharing with us. My advice is always the same. If you don't do anything about the information you just listen to, it's not going to change your life. It's not going to add any ounce on you. But if you apply it, maybe just one thing that you had Matt talk about, just implement that, see what happens, and get a board of advisors with your business. Just pick one thing, implement that. By the end of the year, you will see a tremendous change in the direction of your business, or in you as a business owner. With that said, and if you are in need of a virtual assistant helping you to offload other tasks that you can't do yourself, that needs to be done, send us an email to support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com, and the team there will be able to help you out. We want you to succeed. In fact, you have to succeed, because when you succeed, you become a blessing to your community, to your family, even your country, wherever you are based. And it's a nice thing to be successful. It is actually a good thing to be successful. With that said, have a great day, everyone. I believe in all of you, and you'll be able to reach your goals and implement the strategies we're talking about. Goodbye, everyone.